Corios Lightning is a distribution planning and forecasting solution that provides a 10-year hourly forecast of megawatt demand for every substation and feeder on your grid, adjusted for economic growth, load growth projects, capacity transfers, and distributed energy resource absorption. Corios Lightning is a white box modular solution that grows with your requirements and focuses on cleaning and standardizing the data you have to develop a reliable, trusted forecast to the most rigorous standards. Hi, I'm Robin Way, the founder and president of Corios. Along with my colleague and business partner, John Willey, for a few minutes, we're going to walk you through a brief tour of the Corios Lightning solution. Our clients use Corios Lightning as the central data hub for distributed demand forecasting. These form the foundation for distribution planning and asset planning. Without a great foundation, the whole distribution plan can get shaky, and that's why our clients emphasize how important this first step is in their planning process. John, why don't you start by telling us the most important questions that our clients present us when they are getting started on their grid modernization and demand forecasting journey.
Hi, I'm John Willey, Vice President of Operations at Corios, and the lead designer and architect for Corios Lightning. As Robin mentioned, we developed this solution to help planning engineers and analysts develop reliable forecasts of hourly electricity demand that integrate forecasts of DERs, such as electric vehicles, demand response, and photovoltaic solar technology, with long-term hourly forecasts of electric demand. Some of the main questions we get asked are, when are we going to experience problems on the grid? Where are these problems going to occur? What's causing these problems? What's the magnitude of the problem? And how can we address these problems? Corios Lightning helps us answer all these questions. By looking at this first report, you can see that for the circuit labeled Node 16 in 2023, on the hottest day of the year, this circuit will exceed capacity at 5 p.m. for a single hour. In 2026, we can see that the load limit violation worsens. Demand now outstrips capacity from 4 in the afternoon until 7 in the evening. Let's take a look back at the forecast of hourly demand in 2023 again. If we now broaden our view to the top 10 hottest days, we can see that on average, the demand does not typically exceed the capacity constraints on that circuit. However, in 2026, we see that on average, across the 10 hottest days, there will be at least 1 hour of load limit violations. How did we get here? Let's start by looking at the monthly energy forecasts by circuit. Here, you can see that the forecast of megawatt hours on a circuit based on an econometric model using total non-farm employment and cooling degree days. This particular graph overlays actual and predicted megawatt hours and cooling degree days. If you would rather see the forecasted macroeconomic driver overlaid on top of the megawatt hours, we simply click on this tab over here. A forecast analyst responsible for evaluating model performance would typically want to examine the model's parameter estimates. So let's click on this report. For this particular model, you can see that both cooling degree days and total employment, our economic driver, are both statistically significant and look appropriate. That looks good, but how accurately is the model forecasting? Let's take a look at the model statistics tab next. The MAPE, or the mean absolute percent error for this model, is about 4.2%, which is very good for a circuit level forecast. You can also see that the adjusted R-square value is about 0.66. That's great. But let's say you, as the planner responsible for this circuit, know that manufacturing employment is growing there, and you would rather have the champion model be goods producing employment. It has similar model fit statistics, so how would you go about overriding the default champion model? Simple. We select the Model Overrides tab and then select the model we want to use. This updates the champion model for this particular circuit to the one that the planning engineer wants to use. That's great. We can see how a forecast analyst would evaluate the monthly energy models, but what about the hourly demand models? In this report, here's the actual versus predicted hourly demand for the circuit labeled Node 16 during the holdout period. Let's zoom in to see how well the forecast is performing in August. We can see that it's overpredicting. Why don't we examine the models being used for this circuit? Since August is in the third quarter of the year, let's focus only on those models used in Q3. Now, since each hour of the day is modeled separately within a quarter, we can evaluate the different models that are impacting the hourly demand forecast in August. Let's zoom into these hours in the afternoon when the peak tends to occur. It's clear that the models selected here during peak hours are basic models, using monthly dummy variables, day-of-week dummy variables, load transfer indicators, and interactions of the different terms. My takeaway from this analysis would be to retry an hourly model that incorporates the hourly weather data and transformations of that data, such as square terms and interactions, to see if that performs better. So, in a few minutes, we've explained the circuit's peak demand profile, how the DER impacts affect load violations, and drilled into the forecasts of hourly and monthly demand that shape the peak demand. Corios Lightning does all of this and more.
Thanks, John. That was really insightful. As John described, Corios Lightning helps the electric utilities power planning engineers build a stable foundation for their distribution and asset planning work by generating a reliable and trustworthy monthly, hourly, and peak demand forecast for demand and DER impacts for every substation and circuit on your grid. If you want to take a closer look at Corios Lightning, send me a note at president@coriosgroup.com. We'd love to hear how we can help your organization pursue a successful grid modernization strategy and put the power of Corios Lightning in your hands today. Thanks again.